Let's take a look back at what was a stunning day on Friday in New Mexico when the case against A-list actor Alec Baldwin was dismissed.
The bottom line is, we've got 501 violation. Culpability, we don't need to show bad faith. We've got a Brady violation. We've got a Giglio violation. Now, this is critical evidence in the case that was never disclosed to us. We heard Ms. Morrissey say, I'm going to have Detective Hancock come in and testify. We could have Ms. Popple testify. They could say it doesn't match, et cetera, et cetera. It does not matter. It did not matter in Allison. We were entitled to it. A continuance is not a sufficient remedy. This case should be dismissed, Your Honor. This is over and over and over and over again. And Your Honor, you've given them a fair chance. You said, grand jury, as Mr. Spiro said, you said, I'm going to give you a remedy on Trumbetta. I'm going to limit it. I'm going to give you your remedy. You've given them more than enough opportunities, Your Honor. This is not the first time. It's not the second time. It's not even the third time. It's time for this case to be dismissed, Your Honor.
I want the court to know that the photographs that I spoke to Detective Hancock about yesterday, where it does appear that Ms. Gutierrez has the live ammunition in her own hand that was taken a little more than a month after Ms. Hutchins died. You can see the Starline brass casing, you can see the nickel primer, and then when you look up here, you can see the shape of the projectile. It's a spot-on match for the live rounds. There is absolutely nothing about the ammunition that Troy Teske had that has any evidentiary value in the Gutierrez case. It has no evidentiary value in the Baldwin case. This feels like asking us to go to every sporting goods store, collect all of their .45 caliber ammunition, and send it off for testing. We're not required to do that. It simply doesn't have any evidentiary value, and the defense was aware of it.
Ms. Morrissey doesn't tell you what was actually turned in. She shows you a picture from 2021, a subset of the rounds that were turned in by Teske, a subset. He said he shot a bunch of rounds in those 2 years. The picture was only of 4. This is critical evidence, Your Honor, and whether Seth Kenney is right or wrong, or how we debate whether he was involved or not involved, that's completely irrelevant, because what we know is we don't have those bullets, and they were required to be disclosed so we could put on the case that's fair. And that's exactly what Brady says, Your Honor. Brady says that the administration of justice requires fairness. That was the entire premise of the decision, fairness, and that's all we've wanted from the beginning, Your Honor. And you've given them chance after chance after chance, and there are no more chances, Your Honor.
I'm going to require that the state, in fact, I'm going to order that the state by 11:30 this morning produce the supplemental report, the file itself, and anything in it, and also the rounds.
May I respond?
I'm not finished.
Okay.
And the rounds that Ms. Popple took from Mr. Teske.
I want the court to understand that last night the defense reached out to Ms. Popple and said, we want you to bring the rounds to court tomorrow. And she got their message, and then they reached out to her again and said, no, never mind. We don't want you to bring the rounds to court.
Thank you, Ms. Morrissey. Thank you, Ms. Morrissey.
I have them.
I don't. Okay, where are they?
They're here. I'll go get them.
All right.
So I understood that Detective Hancock had communication with Mr. Teske about trying to get those rounds, and Detective Hancock was unable to get those rounds from Mr. Teske. I did not find that particularly concerning because those rounds had never left Arizona. The filming of Rust was in the state of New Mexico. And the rounds that were taken from PDQ went from Arizona to Texas to Albuquerque. So ammunition that is in the state of Arizona that has never left Arizona did not strike me that it had significant evidentiary value. Then, and I will say, I believe I actually saw a photo of it. At that point in time, I was able to look at the ammunition myself, and it was visibly dissimilar than the rounds from the set of Rust.
also has power, inherent power. Per State versus Lemire, where discovery violations inject needless delay into the proceedings, courts may impose meaningful sanctions to effectuate their inherent power and promote efficient judicial administration. The state's discovery violation has injected a needless, incurable delay into the instant jury trial. Dismissal with prejudice is warranted to ensure the integrity of the judicial system and the efficient administration of justice. Your motion to dismiss with prejudice is granted.
And there you have it. There you have it. That's how this case ended. You know, many of us wondered how it would end. This case had trial watchers holding vastly different opinions on whether the charges should even be brought, whether he should be convicted, all of that. We never even got close to getting there. We heard a minimal amount of evidence just a couple of days in. And this case was dismissed because of a prosecution team and investigators that they worked with who bungled this. If you saw my opening statement this morning, I called it a bungled mess because it is. That was disgraceful that those prosecutors sat on that evidence and chose not to turn it over. And good for Special Prosecutor Erlinda Johnson saying, I won't stand for this. If you won't withdraw it, then I'm resigning because this is wrong. She was right to do that. Let me bring in my guests, law enforcement expert Sonny Slaughter and criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Ryan Tutera. Ryan, you've been doing defense work in the private sector for a while now. You do a lot of high-profile cases in Western Pennsylvania, and before that, you were a prosecutor, and an outstanding one. I used to love watching you in trial. And when you hear something like this as a defense attorney now, knowing the ethical obligations that you had as a prosecutor, tell me what your reaction was when you learned of this, please.
Thank you for those kind words, Julie. And I will say this, your terminology of bungled is putting it mildly and politely, as I know you always are. But I mean, it's shameful. It's shameful. You know, why in the world, would they withhold this? It's not the prosecutor's decision to deem what they believe is relevant and not. You know, a defendant has the right to take any evidence that is in the prosecutor's possession with a court order and have it independently tested outside of a state's lab if they feel that it would be compromised by the investigation in some way. So to not hand that evidence over is just beyond me, and I don't know any ethical prosecutor that would do such a thing. And hopefully, this is the exception and not the general rule. But we do see from time to time, we see prosecutors making it their prerogative as to what they deem to be relevant and exculpatory, and that's not the rules. That's not the rules of Brady. That's not the rule of Giglio. And all the state cases in every state in the United States that define what Brady and Giglio mean as it pertains to their state rules and their state criminal rules of procedure. Criminal rules of procedure. So, I think that this is disgraceful. I think that this is, unethical. And quite frankly, if we want to get into the ethics side of this, why in the world that prosecutor would want to put her license at issue, by taking the stand and testifying in this case, and making some of these admissions is beyond me. Maybe she was in over her head. Maybe the publicity got to her. I don't know. I don't know what was in her mind, but I will say this, Erlinda Johnson should be, she ought to be by the state of New Mexico's governor appointed to being a judge or to being the prosecutor or the state attorney of that district for having the guts to stand up for what is right and doing the ethical thing, and removing herself from the case because, I think that she's done herself and Mr. Baldwin a service. She's done the state of Mexico a service, a good service, and she's done the justice system as a whole a good service. As the world watches that trial or watch that trial, we see people that are still willing to do the right thing regardless of the result. The result you may not like, but to us as lawyers that know how this system goes and all of the different procedural rules that interact with each other and with the law, sometimes there are results that the public at large may not understand and may not agree with. But as it pertains to the law and to the rules by which we live and our society functions, it was the right thing. And, the judge also should be commended for having, the integrity to apply those rules, regardless of the results. So, that's my opinion on it.
I'm with you through every step of that, Ryan. And I especially liked what you said about how someone should give Linda Johnson a judgeship. She would more than deserve that. Should be a great judge, as we see that she wants to follow the rule of law and follow the rules of the ethics that apply to attorneys and the special rules of ethics that apply to prosecutors. Prosecutors have special rules within which they operate. And she recognized that and stood up for what was right, and not easy to do on such a high-profile case. Speaking of, Sonny Slaughter, you are consulted on litigation, oftentimes about expert witnesses, how the testimony should be put in, strategy moves. You will sit there with legal teams and give advice on the best way for things to go. I'm curious what you thought of the defense's decision to go about this by drawing out the testimony from that CSI investigator. I've got a clip for you to watch, and we'll talk on the other side. This is when Marissa Poppel was cross-examined about what she knew about those live rounds being turned in.
After the Hannah Gutierrez trial, there was an individual that came to the police station and stated they had ammunition.
And they turned in the ammunition?
Yes.
And they gave it to you, right?
Yes.
And they told you that this was the ammunition that ended up with Seth Kenny that killed Miss Hutchins, right?
I do not recall all of their statements.
She did a lot of I don't recall. Sonny, what did you think of them getting this information out in the cross before they then went and filed the motion to dismiss and motion to move for sanctions?
First, let me say, Ryan's statements, all of them, bravo, excellent. I just loved everything that he said. I think that was really critical for the defense to have this particular strategy, so we did not continue this travesty of a trial. This was outrageous behavior and conduct by so many people on this particular set. But I think there was prosecutorial overreach. I think there was a lot going on, but I'm glad that they were able to strategize, pull out the important part of the testimony, file the motion. The judge was, because she had been a part of this case and she has ethics, she saw the problems and just knew that this could not continue in the way that it should. And I just want to say, live trials, court TV, how we cover these cases is really important for the public, because the public sees the thrill and the action, but they are actually learning so much of what happens, as Ryan said, with the law, what should and should not happen in cases. What we do here and what we expose here and how our hosts lead us through these conversations and the experts weigh in, whether or not we agree or disagree, this is really teaching the public about process, practice, and how things really unfold in our criminal justice system. It's important work that happens every single day when people turn on court TV, other stations, and find out what they should know that they don't.
I love that, Sonny. You're such an educator of others, and I love that you're saying that there is educational value in what we do. I mean, there really is. You're right. We all got a big lesson. The world got it, when we saw how this went down. And I think we can all agree we've never seen anything like the hearing that happened on Friday. We're going to get into that with the prosecutor calling herself as a witness. That's what's coming up next as we share with you more reaction after the dismissal of Alec Baldwin's case. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Court TV Live. We are taking a look at some of the biggest defining moments in the case against Alec Baldwin. This trial happening in the state of New Mexico, and on Friday the case was dismissed with prejudice, meaning it can't ever be refiled. after the judge called for a special hearing. She stopped the trial, sent the jury home, and had a special hearing to make an inquiry as to whether or not the defense motion to dismiss and motion for sanctions against the prosecutors for failing to disclose evidence had any merit. And during this special hearing, the special prosecutor, the lead prosecutor, Carrie Morrissey, who we saw both in Halyna Gutierrez's trial and in Alec Baldwin's trial, decided to call herself to the stand on Friday. This is like nothing I have ever seen. Let's take a look back at what she said.
We're back on the record.
The court indicated that you wanted me under oath, and I'm happy to do that. Where would you like me?
Well, okay, so just clear, you're a witness, okay? So you can say oath or whatever, but are you calling yourself as a witness? Or do you want Mr. Spiro to call you as a witness?
It doesn't matter to me. How do you want to do it?
I don't think it's necessary, frankly, for this evidentiary record for me to call Ms. Morrissey. I know what happened, and the court knows what happened. I don't think that we need anything further.
Okay, do you want to call yourself as a witness? No, well, just a minute. So he's willing, as I understand it, to rest now. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, you don't have to say anything under oath if you don't want to.
No, I'm happy to.
Okay, so not only happy to, you know, I don't, it doesn't matter to me whether you call yourself as a witness. It doesn't matter to the defense whether you call yourself as a witness. So if you're calling yourself as a witness, there's no one here that's requiring you to be called as a witness.
The information, everything that happened in this regard, especially as it pertains to me, needs to come out in the public.
All right, so you're calling yourself as a witness.
And I am, and it was my understanding that the court indicated to me previously that you wanted me to testify. I understand you've now changed your mind. I think it's a good idea if I do it. Where would you like me?
Okay.
Do you want me here at the podium?
No, on the
Okay,
witness.
sure.
All right, Ms. Morrissey voluntarily calling herself as a witness without any requirement by the court to do so, or Mr. Spiro asking her to. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
During my investigation of this case and my review of the evidence in this case, I came to understand that there was a large batch of live ammunition that was in the possession of Thel Reed, Halyna Gutierrez's father. I also understood from all of the evidence and testimony that a portion of that batch of ammunition that belonged to Thel Reed was taken by Thel Reed and Seth Kinney to the 1883 cowboy training camp. When that was over, leftover ammunition was taken back to PDQ props. Seth Kinney took some of the ammunition from that container that he had brought back from Texas and turned it into the sheriff's department. And it appeared to me that he did it to try to exonerate himself. They took it from Mr. Kinney and they tagged it into evidence under the Rust case. Law enforcement then executed a search warrant at PDQ Props and they took the entire container. And I will say that I do agree, as I recall, although I don't have it in front of me, I do agree that the search warrant didn't really require law enforcement to take everything, but it was my understanding that Mr. Kinney gave them everything so that they would have it and could tag it into evidence. Portions of that ammunition were then sent to the FBI for testing so that they could be compared to the live rounds that were found on the set of Rust. The FBI testing demonstrated that the live rounds that were taken from PDQ Props that were originally in Texas did not match the live rounds on the set of Rust. And that's testimony that we heard during the Gutierrez trial. What ended up happening was Mr. Bowles, Ms. Gutierrez's lawyer, put Mr. Teskey on a witness list and was intending to call him as a witness to the Gutierrez trial. I conducted a pretrial interview of Mr. Teskey, and I want to back up. I did at this point have some understanding that Mr. Teskey had had contact with law enforcement regarding these rounds that he still had in Arizona. So these are rounds that never left Arizona. They were always in the possession of Thel Reed and Troy Teskey. They never went to Texas. They never came to New Mexico. That's what all of the evidence indicated. So I understood that Detective Hancock had communication with Mr. Teskey about trying to get those rounds, and Detective Hancock was unable to get those rounds from Mr. Teskey. I did not find that particularly concerning because those rounds had never left Arizona. The filming of Rust was in the state of New Mexico. And the rounds that were taken from PDQ went from Arizona to Texas to Albuquerque. So ammunition that is in the state of Arizona that has never left Arizona did not strike me that it had significant evidentiary value. Then, and I will say, I believe I actually saw a photo of it. At that point in time, I was able to look at the ammunition myself, and it was visibly dissimilar than the rounds from the set of Rust. We then cut to November of 2023. Mr. Bowles has put Mr. Teskey on a witness list for the Halyna Gutierrez case. We conducted a pretrial interview with Mr. Teskey on November 2nd of 2023. At that point in time, he brought up that he was still in possession of these live rounds that were Thel Reed's live rounds that had never left the state of Arizona. I then, when he started, I think he indicated during the pretrial interview that they were from the same batch that was sourced from Joe Swanson, and I then said, we should get those from you. I had a conversation with Detective Hancock after that pretrial interview about how we could get the rounds from Mr. Teskey, and we were...
Never seen anything like this before. What a mess. What an embarrassment this was. And there's more. You're going to see some more after this. Don't go away, because there's the cross-examination. And we've also got my interview. If you missed it this morning, we're going to replay this for you with the special prosecutor who resigned because she saw what was going on and she said, this isn't right. I can't stand by and let this happen. She wanted the case to be withdrawn. When Carrie Morrissey, you just saw there, wouldn't withdraw it, or Linda Johnson went to the judge and said permission to withdraw from the case. We'll play it for you when we continue.
A husband is dead and his wife is on trial.
Now a jury must decide between self-defense or cold-blooded murder.
The abused wife or murderer trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. We're revisiting the circus that happened on Friday in New Mexico when everything came to a screeching halt in Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter trial because the defense made a motion to dismiss the case based on prosecutorial misconduct. And then we saw the prosecutor call herself as a witness and defend her actions, her choice to not proceed with testing or disclosure of evidence they received after Halyna Gutierrez's case was decided. This morning, the special prosecutor who resigned right before it all went down, joined me live on the program. Erlinda Johnson came on kind of late in the game. She wasn't part of Hannah Gutierrez's trial. She was brought in around April to be part of the prosecution team in the case against Alec Baldwin. You saw her deliver the opening statement, which was excellent. And she told me this morning that when she learned of the failure to disclose that evidence, it was the same time that most of America learned. It was during the trial that she learned it. And she said to her co-counsel, this is wrong. We should withdraw this case. And she said her co-counsel wasn't on board. So she went to the judge and withdrew. Take a listen to what she told me in our interview.
As you, I think, all heard on Thursday evening or Thursday afternoon, Mr. Spiro, Mr. Baldwin's lead defense counsel, cross-examined the crime scene technician about this ammunition that had not been turned over or made available to the defense. And that's the first time I learned of the existence of this ammunition that had been tagged in under a separate case number. Then on Friday morning, when we show up to court and the court ordered that the ammunition be brought into the courtroom, if you recall, the judge dramatically opened this envelope and these bullets started being taken out of the envelope and categorized by the type of ammunition, according to the report, that was tagged in under or submitted under a separate case number. 3 of the rounds appeared similar to the rounds that were found on the set of Rust. And so at that point, in my mind, this hasn't been turned over. This hasn't been made available to the defense. The state hasn't done anything with this. And I believe that at that point, the right thing to do would have been to dismiss this case.
Tell us what you did once you learned about this in the testimony, when many Americans learned about it. What did you do?
I inquired. First of all, I asked, who is Troy Teskey? I was asking my co-counsel, I was asking the detective, who is this individual? And when we recessed, it was explained to me, well, these rounds were not similar to the ones found on set, and they were different. And the question was, why wasn't it made available to the defense? And that's a question I kept asking. And the belief was these were irrelevant. These were irrelevant because they had nothing to do. They didn't look like the ones on set. And I'm not sure my co-counsel had even looked at these physically. She looked at some photographs. And then on Friday morning, when we arrived in court and actually looked at the evidence and looked at the rounds, 3 of them, as I said, appeared similar to the ones that had been found on set.
Erlinda, at that point, did you tell Carrie Morrissey that we should withdraw the charges?
I did. If you recall, the judge excused the jury for the day. We requested breaks. We all conferred. My reaction was, I think we should walk in there and move to dismiss, because this is a violation. And keep in mind, I mean, this was, I believed in this case. I believe that there was reckless conduct on set. A woman lost her life. A woman was killed. But at the same time, I took my job as a prosecutor very seriously, and evidence has to be turned over. We don't get to dictate what the defense is going to be. If it's material, potentially material, if it could assist in raising potentially reasonable doubt or impeachment of witnesses, it has to be turned over.
Yeah, she is absolutely right. Bravo to her for doing what was right in this case, upholding her oath as a special prosecutor. Erlinda Johnson is a practicing criminal defense attorney for many, many years. And prior to doing that work, she was both a state and a federal prosecutor, and brought in for obvious reasons because of her tremendous skill set in the lawyering that she would have been able to add to this case. We saw a little bit of her in opening statements, and she was excellent. Perhaps we will see her again. We're going to certainly follow her career and bring you any more updates on this case as they come in.